Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I am Joe Wong, and welcome to ChatAAPI. We're going to shine some lights on issues and current events that concern the AAPI community, and that guy who keeps showing me his sword collection. I just want to be inclusive here. And later on today's show, Paula Yoo will talk about her book, From a Whisper to a Rallying Cry, The Killing of Vincent Chin, and the trial that galvanized the Asian American movement. And our show correspondent, Riceman, will hit the streets and find out what people's attitudes are toward affirmative action. But first, here's what's happening in the AAPI world. May is AANHPI Heritage Month in America. AANHPI stands for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander. Basically, 2/3 of the world's population come to America and become the smallest minority. May is actually also White People Month because it's part of the European solar calendar. Every month is White People Month. As we know, a lot of Asian countries actually use lunar calendar. Like this year is the year of the rabbit, or year of the cat if you're Vietnamese, or year of the whale if you're Brendan Fraser. Or the year of get a job and get out of my parents' house if you're my brother. I'm serious about it. Unfortunately, in recent years, the term AAPI is also associated with AAPI hate. The nonprofit organization Stop AAPI Hate reported over 11,500 instances just between March of 2020 and March of 2022, which lead many to ask the question, how does Mark Warburg get so much time? In the year 2023, a lot of students in America started to use ChatGPT to do their homework. I was like, okay, now it's taking Asian jobs. Some good news. Starbucks actually appointed an Indian American CEO, Laxman Narasimhan, and he has agreed to work in Starbucks stores as a barista once every month. His salary is $20 million, which means this guy makes $80,000 per shift. I think the only way I can make that kind of money is just the old-fashioned way. Pour some hot coffee on myself and sue McDonald's. 2023 has been a good year for Asian American movies and television representation. We all know that Michelle Yeoh won an Oscar for her performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yay. To be honest, when I first heard about the movie, I thought it was a movie about Elon Musk. That guy's everywhere. He was on Twitter, SpaceX, and Amber Heard. And let's not forget her co-star, whose performance made us cry more than actually Kiwi Kwan himself. He won the Best Supporting Actor award and is now cast in more selfies than in movies. The great news is he can now finally afford health insurance. So basically, in one night, he got a golden statuette from the Oscars and a silver plan from Kaiser. Which is more than I can say for myself. Just kidding, you know. I got it from my wife. I have to admit, I didn't watch the Oscars because I was too busy doing laundry and taxes with my wife. That's the kind of guy I am. And plus, hit shows such as Pachinko and Beef all featured all Asian American leads and storylines. And lately, David Cho from Beef was in hot waters because in a podcast, he told the story of himself sexually assaulting a massage therapist. if there was one guy that Mark Wahlberg should beat up, that's the guy, okay? And last but not least, we finally have the first Asian American president. Oh, come on. The president, oh, thank you. The president of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, Janet Yang. Yeah. Yeah, Janet, that's right. A shout out to Janet. Janet is really amazing. I know her personally. Janet Yang made more films than I've had dumplings. And in my household, we celebrate everything with dumpling. Okay? Lunar New Year, Christmas, and that time my mom thought I was going to quit comedy. She still does. One day there will be an Asian American president, no doubt. But at least for now, we have a president that feels like an Asian president. This is Joe Biden on stage. People feel or think that he's confused, but he's not confused. He's just checking out the feng shui. As a comedian, I'm trying to think of a second thing that Joe Biden has in common with an Asian man, but I can't. So I started to use ChatGPT. This is true, I just asked ChatGPT, write a joke about Joe Biden as like an Asian man. And ChatGPT just says, I'm sorry, I cannot fulfill this request, as it is inappropriate and goes against programming to generate any form of derogatory or discriminatory content. So I said, is that request derogatory or discriminatory toward Asians or toward Joe Biden? And ChatGPT just says, yes, the original request can be interpreted as derogatory or discriminatory toward both Joe Biden and Asian men. It is not appropriate to make jokes that perpetuate harmful stereotypes or belittle individuals based on their race, ethnicity, or any other characteristic. So I said, okay, then write me a joke about Joe Biden is not like an Asian man. ChatGPT just says, fine, sure. Here's a joke for you. Why is Joe Biden not like an Asian man? Because he does not use chopsticks to eat ice cream. I was like, this is more offensive. AI did not perpetuate any stereotypes. It created a new one. Okay? All right, this is enough about ChatGPT, and let's continue with our ChatAAPI. Our first guest today is the author of a book titled From a Whisper to a Rallying Cry, The Killing of Vincent Chin and the Trial That Galvanized the Asian American Movement. Let's welcome Paula Yoo. Nice to see you again.
Oh, good to see you too.
Oh, you look great.
As do you.
Okay, thanks so much. Take a seat.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much for coming to the show, ChatAAPI. And I haven't seen you for a while.
No, I know. It's been a while. I think last time I saw you was Instagram, but not in person.
Yeah, that was during the pandemic.
Yeah, I know.
But this is a much better studio. I know we kind of talked about the subject before, but I just want to ask you this question. Do you think that the killing of Vincent Chin actually kind of make the Asian American movement or Asian American history or form the Asian American identity there?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I would say that with Vincent Chin, the Asian American movement and the political consciousness existed decades, even centuries before he was killed. It's just that a lot of that was erased or not addressed at all in our classrooms, in history classes, on screen, in movies or in TV. We've always been here. I mean, some of the oldest settlements, we had the Filipino community move into what would later become Louisiana in 1763.
Wow.
We had the Chinese laborers that built the railroad and so forth. And basically, I think with the term Asian American, I know right now we say things like AAPI and
AANHPI.
Yes, and now there's AANHPI. Yeah. So, but I think a lot of people don't realize this, but the term Asian American was actually invented by two college, UC Berkeley college students. They were activists, and they created the term Asian American because they wanted to support the Black Panther movement at the time. So it was actually a political consciousness that had happened. So when Vincent Chin was killed in 1982, at that point in time, you were either Korean American, Chinese American, Japanese, and so you were where your individual country was from, but nobody said Asian American. All the aunties and uncles and grandmas they were like, oh, that's what, my granddaughter who's an activist at Berkeley, she calls herself Asian American. I'm not that. But then after Vincent Chin was killed, that was when all the different Asian American communities, the Chinese, Japanese, Filipinos, Asians, and so Koreans and so forth, they all banded together and said, we need to fight together for Vincent Chin's justice. It doesn't matter that I'm Korean American and I'm not Chinese American. What happened to him could happen to me because of how we look. And in fact, at the time, a lot of newspapers, including the New York Times, they used to say the word Oriental. They stopped saying that and they started changing. It changed the AP guide, and Asian American got introduced into mainstream newspapers.
That explains a lot. Once I was at a grocery store, this old lady actually called me Oriental Jew.
Oh no!
I was like, okay, that's actually an upgrade.
That's It's baby steps.
The baby steps. Yeah.
The classic joke is, I'm Korean. I'm a gook. Get your racism accurate. But the thing is even as a joke, I don't think that works anymore because then we're saying I'm not Chinese.
Yeah.
Because of COVID-19, I would say we are all Chinese. And I'm team Chinese American.
All right,
I'm going to stand up and protect you. We even within the Asian community, we have to say, oh, it's them, it's not me.
Exactly.
No, it's all of us, and we have to stand up for each other.
I remember you also told me the story about Vincent Chin's parents and grandparents. That story is quite amazing too.
A lot of people don't realize that Vincent Chin was actually adopted. Lily and her husband David Chin, they'd been trying to have children. It was unfortunately she was not able to have her own biological child, so they ended up adopting Vincent. And they were looking at pictures of the children, actually in Hong Kong, and she found one picture, and it was Vincent smiling, and she was like,
okay.
That's my son.
Oh, wow.
And when he came over...
It's important to smile, I guess.
Yes, I know. You bet. And she said that they met him at the airport, and the minute he saw them, he ran to them and just started saying, Mommy, Daddy.
Oh, wow.
And he actually did not know he was adopted for many years. He found out later when he was a young man. And what's interesting, though, is that with his adopted family, the Chin family has a huge legacy. I mentioned earlier about the Chinese laborers.
Yeah.
Lily Chin's great-great-grandfather was one of the men that helped build the Continental Railroad. So it to me, I got chills when I read that, just because his legacy, the fact that he was chosen to be part of this family, and then how he became a symbol for Asian American civil rights, it just... If I told you I made this, like I said, I invented a fiction story, you'd be like, that's too coincidental.
I know.
It's really quite stunning.
And what happened to the guy who beat Vincent Chin with a baseball bat?
Okay, there were two men. They were white. One was Ronald Ebens. He was a foreman at Chrysler. And a lot of the urban legend is, it was two unemployed white auto workers. No. Ronald Ebens was management. He had worked on the line, got promoted up to foreman at Chrysler. His stepson, he was 42, 43 at the time. His stepson, who was in his early 20s, around the same age as Vincent, was Michael Nitz. And he had just gotten laid off from Chrysler. So he actually was working part-time at a furniture store and getting ready to go back to college. So technically, I do have to say that both Ronald Ebens and Michael Nitz are not guilty of violating Vincent Chin's civil right to be in a place of public accommodation. They were ultimately found not guilty. Both men were found guilty of committing manslaughter, however. And so what happened was, ever since then, they have expressed remorse, but they still think what they did was not racist. They think that it was just too much to drink and toxic masculinity. I have not met Michael Nitz. When I talked to the Ebens family, they said he doesn't want to talk to you. But I am the first person to meet Ronald Ebens in person in his house since Michael Moore interviewed him in 1987. But at the same time, he still thinks what he did was not racist. He still told me this was a bar brawl gone fatally wrong. I had too much to drink. I was being a jerk.
To be honest, the standard for being a racist back in the 1980s is pretty high, you know.
You're right, because he keeps thinking, he says the reason, he actually, he said this in other interviews, he's like, I'm not racist because I'm not in the Ku Klux Klan. Because that was the only way you could be racist. Anything else, your English is really good, or microaggressions, confirmation bias, that wasn't considered racism. They didn't even have that language back then. So it's tragic to me. And I will say that after I met Ronald Ebens, I went to my car and I cried, because that was the first time I realized that anger, compassion, and justice are not mutually exclusive. I mean, can I feel angry that he didn't go to jail? Can I feel upset that justice was never achieved for Vincent Chin? Of course. Can I still feel incredible compassion for this man who's carried this burden with him, who knows that he's lucky to be alive, who killed someone and was a social pariah for decades, could not get a full-time job, he was fired from Chrysler afterwards. Of course I can feel compassion. I just think that when we talk about racism and hatred in this country, we have to come from it from two angles: from courage, to stand up, to fight back and call people out and make them accountable, but also we have to come from a place of compassion. Once the fire's cool, we have to think, what broke that person? What made them do what they did? And how can we prevent other people from breaking like that? Because humans are fragile, we're very vulnerable. And I would say too, the other thing in the Vincent Chin book, it's not just about Vincent Chin, it's told from the point of view of Jared Lew. And he was a young photographer I met.
Okay.
And when, at the time, Corky Lee, who I interviewed, because he took pictures of the 1983 Justice Marches.
Yeah.
And he's a very famous Chinese-American photographer.
Yeah,
when I was working on my book and I was interviewing him, he said, when you go to Detroit to do your research, hook up with Jared Lew. He's a young photographer I mentor, and he's related to Vincent Chin.
Oh.
So when I met Jared and we were taking pictures, I said, hey, I want to interview you. Corky says you're related to Vincent Chin.
Okay.
And he goes, sort of. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, my mom is Vicky Wong, the woman who was supposed to be married to Vincent Chin, because Vincent Chin was killed on the night of his bachelor party. So on the day of his wedding, his bride, Vicky Wong, and all their wedding guests and family, they attended his funeral instead of his wedding. And I know, but there's a lighthearted side. I know. Wow, I just went dark again.
That's part of the story, the history.
And people don't know about her point of view. So when I interviewed Jared, I was like, oh my God. And so he said that in 2012, it was the 30th anniversary. His cousin calls him, and he goes, dude, don't talk to your mom. Today's that big anniversary of that guy. And Jared was like, what guy? What anniversary? And his cousin said, Vincent Chin. And Jared was like, who's Vincent Chin?
Ooh, he doesn't even know?
He was in his mid-20s, so and his cousin went, just Google him. So he Googled him, and the first thing that popped up was a Detroit newspaper article featuring a young photo of his mother arm in arm with Vincent Chin for their engagement party.
Wow.
And Jared told me I recognized my mom immediately. So part of my book is also a hopeful story of a young man reaching out to his mother to unearth this tragic secret past that she hid from him because she thought it would protect him. And instead, it's about him reaching out and saying, Mom, I'm here to share the burden with you and to help you, overcome this grief. You're not on this journey alone of healing. So that's kind of the positive. And in a way, Jared represents the high school reader that reads my book who doesn't know about Vincent Chin, because he's finding out about Vincent Chin too in his research.
What do you think is the legacy of that incident in terms of what we're seeing today? I mean, at least in 2023, people are saying, hey, look, Asians are getting Oscars, we're becoming CEOs of corporations, and we're mayors of different cities, presidential candidates. Do you think Asian Americans or the AANHPI community has achieved full equality?
No, absolutely
in
not.
2023? No?
We got a long way to go. I mean, it is great. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the Oscars, you know, we have President Kamala Harris, you know,
Yeah.
we have, and K-pop, you know, K-dramas, you know,
Yes.
kimchi, I don't know. But we've made a lot of progress,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not enough. And when you look back at the scale of things, this stuff should have happened decades ago. So to me, it's not like, look at all this progress. I'm like, we should have done this. This should have, I'm still getting called chink. It's because of the pandemic. I'm sitting there going, really? It's 2023 and it's still like it's 1984.
Yeah.
So no, we still have a very long way to go. Having said that, I am grateful for the progress we have made because I do think that, you know, I'm a Gen Xer. So I think that for Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation Zygote, and you know, the millennials and all of that, they're our future hope because a lot of them are seeing, they're not only learning about Vincent Chin and about racism, anti-Asian racism and xenophobia, but they're also learning about positive things that we've done, that just regular movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's just a fun sci-fi movie. Like that's awesome. That's a mother-daughter story.
Exactly.
You know, it's not really about racism, and you know, it's just we're seeing more examples of us just in a regular universal point of view, which I think is good. So I do think that's good. I do want to add that the other thing that people don't realize about Vincent Chin, it wasn't just the AAPI community, the Asian American movement, that was born for the mainstream Asian communities fighting for his justice. We owe a huge debt of gratitude to the Black community because Jesse Jackson, Congressman John Conyers, they all stepped up and said, this is not right. You know, this is a civil rights issue. We are fighting in solidarity with the Asian community. Vincent Chin is not just a symbol of Asian American civil rights, he's also a symbol of unity between all the different communities, and we have to celebrate that.
I think that's very important to remember. People always thought Vincent Chin's trial has a lot of impact on the Asian American community, but very little did we know they also impacted the judicial system. You know, that's very impressive.
Yeah, exactly. His family didn't have a voice. Now other families, all families have a voice in that situation.
Doing all this hate crime, there's really these you know, heartbreaking comments saying you know, oh, you know, I'm glad to see Asian privilege got knocked down a notch. When I saw that, I just remember something, you know. I think here's I could be wrong though. I just feel that here's the Asian American existence here. We don't have white privilege, and we don't have the benefit of affirmative action either. But whenever there's race riot, Asian convenience stores get looted. You know that? That of course I'm referring to the 1992 so-called race riot in Los Angeles. I think you also did some interviews on that instance, or?
My book looks into a little bit of the systemic reasons why, and I think part of it has to do with you have the Asian American immigrant believing in the American dream of wanting to be white adjacent, and not realizing that in trying to achieve that white adjacent American dream, they're promoting and perpetuating anti-blackness. At the same time, the people in the Black community, there are not everybody, but they were fed anti-Asian xenophobic stereotypes. So then they look at the Korean American or the Asian American store owners coming in saying, you know, why are you trying to exploit us with these high prices? You know, you don't even live in our neighborhoods, you don't support us, and you know, you're just trying to make it so then you can move to a nice, safe white neighborhood. So there was a lot of antagonism, and then you have the language barrier. The Korean Americans, the academics call them the middleman minority, and what that means is we're stuck in the middle. White people like us until there are too many of us, and then they enact laws like the Exclusion Act to get rid of us, you know, and then, you know, we're treated like Black people, but then in terms of racism, but then the Black community thinks that we're on the side of so we're in the middle. We're the middleman minority. So that's what my book is about. I'm waiting, I should check my iPhone later. I'm waiting for the editor to give me his edits, but my next book is about...
Wait a minute, somebody's editing your book?
Yeah.
How dare they? No, just kidding.
No, that's what makes it okay.
Okay.
They fix all the mistakes. But my next book, it's coming coming out in spring 2024 from Norton Young Readers. It is for high school students, young adult narrative nonfiction, just like my Vincent Chin book. And it's about 1992 and the Los Angeles uprising, or what we used to call the LA riots. The official title is Rising from the Ashes, Los Angeles, 1992. Edward J. Song Lee, Latasha Harlins, Rodney King, and A City on Fire. And it comes out in spring 2024.
Oh, wow. I really look forward to it. It
thank
sounds
you.
like you have to come back to the show again to talk about that book.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, no,
Okay.
no, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you again so much for coming to my show. It's a great honor for me.
Oh, the honor's mine. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We should grab coffee together sometime.
Definitely.
Okay, let's do it now.
Okay, well, let's go.
Okay, all right, cool. Go ahead.
Thank you.
May is AAPI Heritage Month, and it's also graduation month. But to a lot of Asian American parents, they're more concerned about college admission than graduation. So in the next segment, we're going to send Riceman to interview people on their attitude toward affirmative action in the college admissions process.
What is up, guys? Recently, our organization called Student for Fair Admission sued Harvard and UNC, alleging their race-conscious college admission process discriminated against Asian students. So the Supreme Court is currently preparing a decision. Let's hit the street and see what students and the general public thinks about affirmative action in college admission. Let's go. Hey guys, what's your opinion on affirmative action?
You go for it.
No.
No? What's your opinion on affirmative action?
I don't know if I know enough about the topic to have like a strong opinion on it.
I think it's a good thing. It should be implemented.
Affirmative action. What could this possibly mean?
We're affirming, we need to take action to get people into college.
I really don't support colleges, honestly. I support just kind of doing your own thing and working for yourself. There's a lot of people who waste a lot of their money on these tuitions.
Listen to this wise old man.
I'm only 22, guys.
Excuse me, do you support affirmative action?
Oh, later.
You're gonna run away from that question? Okay.
Yes, we do.
What's the number one benefit of affirmative action?
I guess bringing equality.
I don't know enough about it.
You're gonna do some research tonight?
Yeah.
And form your own opinion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Say why if you support affirmative action.
Affirmative action? Oh, gosh. I hope to God they can get into college.
Everybody should get into college.
Well,
right?
I don't know about a Bernie Sanders approach, but maybe we should have something like that. I don't know. Hold on one second. I'm going to go into Google.
Well, do you think schools should consider race when admitting students?
No.
It should be a blind process. You think it should be? Should they know like?
You can't do the race thing. They can't know. Schools can't play the race cards. But I don't think race should be the factor. I mean, give the poor people a chance to get educated.
Yeah, so it should be based on like wage. It should be based on like the parents' income.
It's African American and Latino first for that education's being denied. We've seen that.
I'm from Brazil, and in Brazil we do have something like that to get like people to get in universities and stuff. So I think it's a good measure because in my country personally is like there's a lot of inequality. So it's a good way for people who didn't have the same opportunities to get like college experience and have a different like life in the future.
We went to UCLA. It was a lot of afraid people. Okay, let's see if USC. It's just the University of Scared. Okay, do you support affirmative action?
Sure.
Why?
Because I need long experience.
What's your opinion on affirmative action?
I don't know about that.
You don't know? Do you go to school here?
No.
I think he lied. He probably goes here. He looks like a professor.
Affirmative action? Yeah. I'm all for it.
Why?
Why? Because it's inclusive and because, we need to be affirmative with our actions.
Do you know what affirmative action is?
No.
Yes. Were you, did you get in because of that? Or?
No.
So you know what it is?
Yes.
We support it. We support it.
Affirmative action?
You never heard of it?
That is too complex of something to get a soundbite.
Okay. What's your thoughts on affirmative action?
I'm not American.
You're not American? Only American can talk about it? We're gonna switch up a little bit. We're gonna go to a place where common Americans go, which is a main street shopping plaza. All right? So let's see if we get any good answers out here. Can I get your opinion on affirmative action? It's too deep.
No, thank you.
Can I get your opinion on affirmative action? Or do you have any opinion on it?
We're good. No, thank you.
Nobody wants to use their freedom of speech. What the hell? What country are we in? What is your thoughts on affirmative action? These people have as much opinion as this dead guy.
I don't know what affirmative action is, bro.
Sound like something that you want?
It's scary. I don't know. What does that mean, bro?
Dude, have you been to college before?
I just watch anime, bro. Just watch anime, bro.
Yeah, let's get it. Oh.
I think it's a little bit racist. I don't have enough information.
Excuse me, what's your thoughts on affirmative action?
I think it's another game by the government, and they're just trying to keep on playing the race card, try to have people more focusing on more, the racial problem than the real problem, which I think personally is the classism, the class struggle of American people. The people at the top, no matter what skin color you are, you're basically the enemy of the people at the bottom.
We actually went to interview at different college campuses around LA, and none of the students wants to answer these questions. They just walk away when we ask them. Why do you think that is?
They may actually not understand the history, and that's unfortunate. The right wing is trying to eliminate or eliminate what they call critical race theory because they don't want people to know the truth. If you understood the unvarnished truth of what's happened in the country, then you would recognize that there's a lot of reparations that need to be paid to a lot of people. Students just don't know what they don't know.
So we interviewed more than 100 people today. Only 12 people said they supported affirmative action, and 5 people said they didn't support affirmative action based on race and ethnicity. Most of the people we talked to didn't know anything about the subject matter and just simply refused to talk about it. Affirmative action is a complex topic with different perspectives. So right now, I'm gonna go home and read more about it too. Back to you, Joe.
Well, that's our show. I want to thank my guests, Paula Yoo, Riceman, and all of you for tuning in. This is our inaugural episode, so if you like what we've been doing, don't forget to click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for future episodes. I'm Joe Wong. Thanks so much for letting me chat AAPI. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mint chocolate. My favorite.